I made a video about the sewing machine that every guy wants. So if you haven't seen that video, it's right here. You can take a look at that, come back here. It was well received, but there were a few misunderstandings about what I was trying to convey. I'm going to address some of those things, and I'm also going to talk about this machine. It is a more modern version of the type of sewing machine that everybody wants. In that video, I featured a Consew 206. I used that machine, I had it on hand at the time, to show features that I think are important for you to look for if you're looking for an industrial machine, your first industrial machine. So if you have a home machine, you can already sew clothing and curtains, pot holders, baby clothes, underwear, lingerie, swimwear, okay, all that you can do with your home machine. And it zigzags, it does decorative stitches. Your home machine's going to do all that stuff. So if you're into sewing, you probably have one. If you don't have one, they're fairly affordable to get, and you can do all that stuff. And you don't need an industrial machine necessarily. If you want to start to do heavier types of sewing, you want to sew up tarps, you want to sew with canvas, you want to sew with leather, even denim. You want to sew up bags, wallets, you want to sew a belt, or a dog collar, or a weightlifting belt, then your home machine's not going to cut it, and you're going to need to get an industrial machine. So in those cases, this in general is the type of machine you want. Just like the Every Guy Wants video where I featured the Consew 206, that is not the only machine that has the features that I think are important for that first step into industrial sewing machines. Some other machines that should also be considered, and if you get an older machine like a Singer 111, you might save yourself some money. You might be able to get into the hobby at a more affordable price, and those old machines just seem to keep running. If you find one that's in decent shape and working, chances are it's going to last many more years for you. There's also the Singer 211, the Pfaff 1245, the Adler 167. There's the old Juki LU 562 and LU 563. I've got another machine that looks just like this. It's the Juki 1508. I had a Mitsubishi DU 105. All those machines and others, very good examples of the type of machine that I'm talking about. Now this machine here is a very popular model. You can find these secondhand for fairly decent prices. You can buy them brand new today. You can find a lot of them used. There's many in circulation. So the Juki 1541 has a large hook and bobbins. It has the triple feed. Another nice feature is you can adjust the forward and reverse stitch to be equal. There's good documentation on this machine that you can find online for free. And in that documentation, it spells out in fairly clear terms the procedure for making such adjustment, plus all the other adjustments for this machine, which is nice. If you are mechanically inclined, you basically have a service manual for this, and you can maintain it. It's still in production. These are easy to find, and the parts are easy to get, and they tend to be cheaper than the European counterparts in the US. If you live in Europe, I think you can get Adlers and Pfaffs and machines from Europe with much better prices than I can get here in the United States. When it comes to getting parts and finding used versions of this machine, I can just find more of these than I can the European models. So if you're looking for a newer model of a triple feed machine, this is a very good one. The 1541. This one happens to be a 1541S. The S stands for safety. So this has a safety clutch in it, and if the machine gets in a bind, the clutch will break free and the hand wheel will turn, but the sewing mechanism will stop. It will disconnect the power from the sewing mechanism and perhaps save some damage to the machine. This machine has the triple feed mechanism, which is really where the rubber meets the road. It is that feeding mechanism that makes the machine behave the way that I feel a machine should behave when I want to sew some thick materials and I want to go over several seams and I want to do something that is maybe a 1/4 inch thick, even slightly thicker than that. So the way this mechanism works is it moves that material through. When you're using a home machine and you hit a seam, sometimes it'll just kind of peel out and just keep sewing in one spot. It won't cook right through that seam like you want it. This tends to walk over those seams and difficult areas. It feeds it through. You don't have to push it through. The machine does the work for you. Triple feed mechanism, that's what you're looking for. And the Juki has it in spades. The type of mechanism has been refined over the years. It's just a little bit better now than it was, say, 40 years ago, when you might be using the Juki LU563, which was a great machine, which is a great machine. However, this mechanism has been refined. Technology does advance over time. This machine has what I consider a hybrid lubrication system. By hybrid, I mean part of it's automatic and part of it's manual. So in the top, there's a large wick well. You dampen that wick well, and there's more wicks that kind of keep most of the top components lubricated. But there are also a few places that need to be lubricated manually. Here you can see an oil reservoir, and that lubricates some of these moving components, and most importantly, it lubricates the hook. The 1541 has easy stitch length adjustment, so it's capable of making stitches up to 9 millimeters long. This model has a built-in bobbin winder. These are really nice. They're easy to adjust. It's got the paddle style reverse, which is easy to use. It's kind of one of those deals you can keep your eye on your work and you just reach over and it's easy to find. You engage it and when you're done you let go, it just springs back. This model has an integrated knee lift. So this knee lift bar hooks right to the machine. A lot of the older machines have a knee lift that is attached to the table. This one attaches directly to the machine, and it just has a very positive feel to it. Then it has the foot lift in the back that you can lift it to hold the foot up, and when you're done with this you can just operate with the knee lift and it will disengage the hand lift. You can hear it let go, and now you're off to the races. Now this machine has a vertical hook on a horizontal axis, and so the bobbin axis is underneath the table. Now some people kind of consider that a downfall of the machine, but really once you get to using it, it's pretty easy. So changing the bobbin out on this is not particularly daunting. You can move back this access panel and you can look down through there, and then you can see what you're doing. Pull that out. So there's your bobbin. Once you install your bobbin and you pull that out, of course that's going to hold it in, and then just look down through here as you put it back in. Alright, so I'm going to start with some upholstery material. It's just vinyl. You know, that's 4 layers. You can see it that while I'm sewing, my bobbin is winding. So that's kind of handy if you can set that up. So that's a 6 millimeter stitch. Here's the top of the stitch length. Makes a nice long stitch if you want. Of course you can dial it down. We'll go to about 3 or so. smaller stitch length. There's a very small stitch length. So when you're dealing with thread this big, that's really not a very attractive stitch that small, but it can do it. You could put a smaller thread in here, and that's gonna would get a better result. But you know, 3 on this dial is about as small as you want to go to have a decent looking stitch. Now this machine will use thread up to 138. Some folks get larger threads than that in the top and run smaller in the bottom. But this machine, you know, I think the specs say that it's going to do Tex 138 top and bottom all day long. This thread right here that I'm using is Tex 105. So the triple feed works really good on slippery materials like vinyl, where layers can kind of slip around on one another. When this machine moves the fabric forward, the needle is in it, and then that keeps everything kind of pinned together, so to speak. Okay, right there, that clicked off. So while I'm over here doing my project, this was filling, and then it finally kicked off. And of course I still got plenty of thread in my bobbin. So once this finally runs out, this is ready to go. So just cut it off there. I can just swap them if I think I'm going to need some more of that color. This will fill before the bobbin in the machine will be depleted. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please consider subscribing to my channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to be notified anytime I post a video, click the bell under this video.